I mean, Ben, that's a huge question, Benjamin. Like, what advice would I give to new streamers, content creators? I mean, there's like 5 million ways I could answer that. I have a series of videos on YouTube which address a lot of the early questions people have. Um, I think you just maybe the number one piece of advice I could give somebody. Uh, Let me think about that for a second. What advice would I give to a new streamer content creator? I'm also going to timestamp this because this will be a great thing to pull out. I think new streamers, you have to make a decision. Are you doing it for fun and a hobby, or are you doing it trying to make it a career? Because depending on what you're trying to do, those are two very different things. And as a result, there are two very different ways to go about it. Like if you're going about it as a hobby, and you're saying, I don't care to make money at it, I don't care about it, I just want to play video games and have fun. And I want to stream and do it for a hobby and have that be something I do for fun 2 or 3 times a week. Then you just do it and you have fun and you just focus on the fun. The hardest challenge for most people is getting over the fear of this, the fear of showing their face, the fear of talking. The easiest way to do that is just narrate everything you're doing. Just narrate. And if you just narrate what you're doing, so they're like, okay, guys, let's go work on this quest next. And we're going to go ahead and open up the quest journal. Let's see here. Let's go over here and look for this quest. And we're going to go pick that quest. And then we're going to go to the map and we're going to go work on this dude's quest. So, like, that's easy. Just narrate. So, anyway, um, hobby versus doing this for a living. So, if you're just going to do it for a hobby, you don't have to worry about anything. You literally can just stream what you want, when you want, play whatever you want. But if you're doing this to try to make a living at it, and you're doing this to try to grow within the space and try to make a name for yourself and to actually have this replace your day job, then there are so many things that you have to pay attention to. You have to worry about what games you're playing. When are you playing? How often are you playing? How many hours a day should you be streaming? We've talked about that in a previous video. What tools do you need to use? You have to worry about things like thumbnails. You have to worry about things like titles. You have to worry about things like SEO. You have to worry about things like what games are the hot games of the week. You have to worry about numbers and analytics. What's the competition doing? And yes, everyone is your competition. You have to worry about playing the games that you want to play versus the games that are going to get you the traffic that you need to grow so that you can make the amount of money that you want to make. Then you have to worry about things like the risks of playing games that no one watches versus games that are going to get you lots of views but have not the right type of audience that you want. Do you want to do those things? What's the end goal? Do you want to have a niche? Do you not want to have a niche? Do you want to go hard on one game or do you want to be a variety streamer and play lots of different games? There are a million different things that would go into it. And the number one rule, if you're going to be doing it for a living, is you have to be willing to bust your ass for years, and it will be years, with next to nobody watching, next to no money coming in, and you have to either have a stockpile of savings to live off of for the probably 3 to 4 years it's going to take you to get going, or a supportive spouse that's going to take care of you for the 3 to 4 years that it's going to take to get going, or be willing to sacrifice every single little bit of spare time and friends and everything that you have outside of your day job in order to make it happen. Because you will not be able to do this for a living unless you put 150% into it. And that's something that most people aren't willing to wait. Because if you have a spouse or a significant other, they have to come second. Facts. Like your spouse or significant other has to be willing to let you prioritize this. They need to be willing to take a back seat. And not many spouses and significant others are going to be selfless enough to do that. There are a lot of spouses and significant others out there going to be like, no, 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 no. You're married to me. We're in this relationship. You need to put me first. And it's like, well, I'm trying to build this thing that's my primary passion. So there's relationship things that come into that question as well. If you're lucky, you have a spouse like my wife who said, hey, whatever it takes. You do what you need to do to provide for this family, and I will support you in whatever way I can. And so she and I have gone back and forth depending on where we're at on different projects over the years. I've supported her, she supported me, but we've always had each other's backs when we're doing different projects over the years. So, yeah, I would say the biggest thing, the number one thing would be, are you going to be doing this as a hobby? In which case, nothing matters, and you can just do it for funsies in your spare time, whenever you want. Or are you going to do this because you want to grow and have it become a job or become something that fills your pension or something that replaces your day job or something that's going to give you a side hustle, a side income, whatever it needs to be? Because then there's all those other factors that come into play. And that's, you know, that's when you have to have hard discussions and you make decisions early on about whether or not you're going to be a niche streamer and go hard and heavy on like only RPGs or only shooter games or only RTSs, or are you going to do variety streaming? And yeah, there's so much to it. But the big thing is, if you're going to do this for a living or you're trying to build it into something, you have to be willing to go 150%. Um, I think Co Carnage had a really good video the other day talking about how if you're going to do this for realsies, like you're going to sacrifice your social life, you're going to sacrifice friends, you're going to sacrifice everything outside of your family life to make this happen. You're going to live in front of your computer. You're going to work 15 hours a day outside of your day job. You're not going to sleep. You're always going to be grinding. And it could take 4 years. You might get lucky and it could only take 2 years. But I would say out of all of the streamers that I've seen who have made it into like big time numbers, like 500,000 or more subscribers, all of those people streamed for like 5 to 7 years before they got big. So they grinded and grinded and grinded, going from 20 viewers a day to 50 viewers a day to 150 viewers a day. And then sometime in the year 5 to year 7 area, they exploded. And a lot of people look at that and go, overnight success. It's like, no, 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 no. There was 5 years, 6 years, 7 years of full-time work to get to this point. Um, so that's it's a myth that anybody just explodes onto the scene. Like everybody puts in time. I mean, even Jinxies, I think, is one of the biggest streamers right now, or the biggest success stories. There's a video out there, something like he streamed for a whole year, um, to one viewer, and it was his dad. Just watching, his dad was the only person that watched his streams for like the first year. And I believe he showed it on a stream one time how he went from like one and all of a sudden just blew up at one point. Um, Benjamin says, is niche streaming a bad thing? I want to stream Fallout 4. I want to stream in my free time while going to college as a side hustle. Then if I get some growth, maybe full time. I mean, is niche streaming a bad thing? Yes and no. The reason that I don't like it, for me personally, is because if that niche ever goes away, you're fucked. Now, if you pick an old game like Fallout 4, maybe that niche never goes away. But if you look at, like, let's say I picked World of Warcraft and I want World of Warcraft to be my only game that I play. That's probably a bad example because that's been around for 20 years. Let me pick a different example. Let's say EverQuest. I picked EverQuest as my niche, and I started playing EverQuest 20 years ago. And that's always been my niche. That niche is a very small niche. There's only so many players that play EverQuest. There are no new people coming into EverQuest. So your growth is going to just cap out because there's never any more people that are coming into the EverQuest franchise. So at some point, you're going to hit a cap. There's only so many people that are going to watch you. And the same could be for Fallout 4. Fallout 4 has pretty much already had the amount of growth it's ever going to have. There are a lot of people who play Fallout 4, but it's never going to grow beyond that. So if you choose to put yourself into a niche, you're stuck in that niche and you're capped by the growth that that niche has. In addition, if that niche ever goes away, your channel is fucked because you're not going to be able to move away from that niche, and only a small percentage of your audience might be willing to move with you to whatever niche you go to next. You can grow very quickly in a given niche. We had somebody who I remember used to tune in. I don't know if he still watches the streams, but we were talking like a year ago, he had gotten very big on Starfield, and his Starfield content had allowed his YouTube channel to grow very quickly, which is great, and that's awesome. But the reality is Starfield is one game, and there's only so much content you're going to get out of Starfield before the people stop wanting to watch Starfield. And so you can get very explosive growth in a given niche when a game is new and hot and everything else. But what happens if that game doesn't release a DLC for 10 years or 6 years? What happens if that game no longer releases DLC, like Fallout 4, and it doesn't go anywhere? Well, then you're stuck with that hard cap of no new audience members. So one of the reasons I went with variety streaming very early on was because I looked at it and it said, with variety streaming and variety content creation, there's always new titles coming out. So there's always new things to look forward to and new things to play. The flip side to variety streaming is the growth can be much slower because your audience is going to be all over the place. Some people are going to love watching you play one game, but they won't watch the next one. Some people will love the 3 games in a row that you play, but then they might not watch you for the next 2 you play. So your audience is going to do this depending on the games you play. You can see that with my channel. We have certain games like No Man's Sky, where 120 viewers per stream. Dragon Age: The Veilguard, right now we're at 47 viewers on the stream. We've been averaging like 40 to 50 the last few days. First week of the stream, we were at like 150 to 300 viewers. You know, Starfield, I think we usually get like 120 to 150 per stream. So it just depends on the game that I'm playing. So if you're going to do variety stuff, you have to be willing to accept the fact that your numbers are going to do this. Now, what you're always looking for is the net growth. So at the end of the day, as long as the numbers are always going up, that's what you're mainly looking for. But you always have to be looking ahead as a variety streamer and variety content creator. What's the next game I'm going to play? That can also get very expensive. Games are not cheap to play, and you will not be getting free keys and free codes and free things for at least 2 or 3 years. Like, that's just not a reality of how that works. It takes a long time to build up to the point where you're getting free stuff. And even then, it might not be free stuff that you want. I get offered probably 60, 80 free keys a month. I don't take hardly any of them because most of the games are absolute shit that I get offered. Occasionally, I get some stuff that will come along that I take. Like earlier this year, like Robin Hood, Sherwood Builders, that was offered to me, and I went, hey, I like Robin Hood. This looks like fun. I'll definitely take that key. And so I made, content around it, and it did well, and I made $1,000 or whatever off of a free key, which is a nice little perk of, instead of spending $40, and I got a free $40 product and made like $1,000 off of it. So anyway, that would be my quick and easy advice. Everything else is too complicated to do in a single session.